Okay, we're on.
Not yet. I'm sorry.
Okay, I saw the message.
I believe you're live now.
Okay, we're on.
Yes.
Okay. Good evening. Welcome to the special called meeting of the Kuttawa City Council on Monday, September the 14th, 2020 at 6 p.m. Notice of this meeting has been sent out pursuant to the Kentucky Open Meetings Act and is being conducted by Zoom video teleconference and being live streamed to YouTube for the general public. For members to participate in the meeting, your video must be turned on. Members must be seen and heard. We'll get started with the roll call to record attendees. Savannah, could you call the roll, please?
Yes, ma'am. We've got Kim.
Here.
Skyla.
Here.
Tom.
Here.
And Sandy.
Here.
So not present is Sean and Kenny.
Okay, so we have the 4 out of 6 established a quorum, and I'll call the meeting to order. Would you join me in prayer? Our Heavenly Father, we give thanks to you for your many blessings in our lives. We ask for your guidance so we can make the best decisions for our city and community. We pray for strength and healing from this current virus. Help us to do your will. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, started with our agenda. The first item of business is the review of the minutes from the August 2020 City Council meeting. Everyone should have received the information in your packets. I'll accept a motion to approve the minutes.
I make a motion, we approve the minutes as recorded.
Okay. I hear a second.
Second.
Okay. Motion made and seconded. We need a roll call vote. Savannah?
Okay. Kim.
Aye.
Skyla.
Aye.
Tom.
Aye.
Sandy.
Aye.
Okay. The passes by a vote of 4. The minutes of the August 2020 meeting are approved. The second item is the review of the financials from August 2020 meeting, and I'll accept a motion to approve the financials.
I make a motion to approve the financials.
Is there a second?
Second.
A motion made and seconded, and we need a roll call vote, please.
Kim.
Aye.
Skyla.
Aye.
Tom.
Aye.
Sandy.
Aye.
Okay. Passes and financials of August 2020 are approved. Next is old business, and I don't see any old business on the agenda. We'll go down to the new business, which is the first item is the first reading of the City of Kuttawa Ordinance number 09-14-20-08, the ordinance establishing the watercraft tax rate. Is there a motion to hear the ordinance?
I make a motion that we hear the ordinance.
Okay. Anyone
A
second?
second.
Okay. Motion made and seconded, and we need a roll call vote to read it.
Kim.
Please.
Aye.
Skyla.
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Sandy,
Aye.
Okay. It's unanimous. Jay, could you read the ordinance, please?
Yes, ma'am. City of Kuttawa, Kentucky, ordinance number 09-14-20-08. An ordinance repealing City of Kuttawa ordinance number 08-12-19-06 and establishing the property tax rate on watercraft. Whereas the City of Kuttawa, Kentucky is desirous of establishing a watercraft tax rate for calendar year 2020. And whereas the City of Kuttawa, Kentucky deems that 22 cents per $100 of assessed value is necessary and sufficient. Now therefore be it ordained that the watercraft property tax rate for the calendar year 2020 is 22 cents per $100 of assessed value. This ordinance shall become effective upon passage and publication. First reading, September 14th, 2020. Second reading, consideration, passage, publication, attest, Savannah McLeod, City Clerk, City of Kuttawa, Kentucky. Barbara Campbell, Mayor, City of Kuttawa, Kentucky.
Okay. Any discussion?
Well, it's my understanding this tax rate's been in existence since 1983, and there's some kind of deal that you can't change it or something. I'm not sure exactly why you would lock something in for nearly 40 years, but I guess that's the case. And so I would move that we approve the ordinance.
I know we don't vote on this until the next reading, right?
You could,
Correct.
yeah, you could actually have a motion to approve the first reading, but
Okay.
it will not be essentially approved. The
Approved.
ordinance itself would not be approved until the second reading. So we've had a proper introduction and first reading. It's your prerogative as to whether you want to have a motion to approve the first reading or not at this point.
Okay. Did you make a motion, Tom, to
I
approve?
did, yes.
Okay. You get a second and vote on that?
Second.
Okay. Savannah?
Aye.
Skyla,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Sandy,
Aye.
Okay, so the first reading of the watercraft tax rate has been approved. Our next item is the first reading of the City of Kuttawa ordinance number 09-14-0-09. The order establishing real and personal property tax rate. Your motion to read the ordinance?
Make a motion to hear the reading of 09-14-0-09 for the real and personal tax.
Okay,
Is it appropriate for discussion prior to or not? Or would you prefer to read it first?
is it all right to discuss, Jay, before the reading?
Well, and let me say this, I can preface this by saying that to have a first reading of the ordinance, I mean, procedurally, I think a motion to introduce it would be appropriate. And certainly if there is further discussion, and even if the council wishes to change this in any way, if there are any substantive changes to it after the first reading, then obviously you have to have essentially another first reading. So I think if you guys want to just do a motion to have the first reading,
The reading,
want to make any changes, we'll have to kind of go back to a first reading again anyway.
okay. So there's been a motion made. Has there been a second for the reading of the ordinance?
Second.
Okay. All right. Is there a discussion? Discussion on the property tax rate?
So the compensation, the numbers are lower than last year.
Yes. That shouldn't disappoint anyone.
I'm a little confused though. Are we just making a motion to read it?
There is a motion on the floor to simply read the ordinance as drafted. And then I think for a substantive discussion, once it's been read, I think you can have a substantive discussion on that then.
Go ahead and read it.
Savannah, I think since we have a motion on the floor, I think to follow Robert's Rules of Order, I think Savannah would need to take a roll call vote prior to the reading.
Ann, what's your vote?
Aye.
Skylar?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Sandy?
Aye.
Okay.
Okay. Jay, could you read the ordinance?
Yes, ma'am. City of Kuttawa, Kentucky, ordinance number 09-14-20-09, ordinance repealing ordinance number 08-12-19-05, and enacting property tax rates for 2020 tax year. Whereas the Pennyroyal Area Development District has furnished for the City of Kuttawa, Kentucky, a compensating rate on real estate of 0.163 for the upcoming 2020 tax year. And whereas the compensating rate on real property is the tax rate, if adopted, that will generate as much revenue as the City of Kuttawa received during the previous year. And whereas the Pennyroyal Area Development District has also furnished the substitute rate for real estate of 0.170 for the City of Kuttawa. And whereas the Pennyroyal Area Development District has furnished for the City of Kuttawa, Kentucky, a compensating rate on personal property of 0.2722 for the upcoming 2020 tax year. And whereas the compensating rate on personal property is the tax rate, if adopted, that will generate as much revenue as the City of Kuttawa received during the previous year. And whereas the Pennyroyal Area Development District has also furnished the substitute rate for personal property of 0.29, excuse me, let me start there again. Whereas the Pennyroyal Area Development District has also furnished the substitute rate for personal property of 0.2839 for the City of Kuttawa. And whereas the city deems it necessary and in the public's interest to adopt the tax rate of 0.10 for real estate and the tax rate of 0.2938 for personal property, now therefore be it ordained and established that pursuant to and in accordance with KRS Chapter 132, the tax rate of 0.170 for real estate and the tax rate of 0.2938 for personal property are hereby established and adopted for the 2020 tax year. First reading, September 14th, 2020. Second reading, consideration, passage, publication, attest. Savannah McLeod, City Clerk, City of Kuttawa, Kentucky. Barbara Campbell, Mayor, City of Kuttawa, Kentucky.
Savannah, will you check real quick that last rate, the 0.2928, or I thought it was a different number on that memo that came from PAD.
It was, and I think Skyla, when I drafted this, I think these were the numbers that were presented to me initially. The actual substitute rate as presented by the PAD for personal property was 0.2839. 0.2938 is just below the 4% rate for personal property.
Okay, I see.
Well, here's my thoughts, and I know there are some, if you exceed the substitute rate, there are some additional requirements that have to be met. And I know, I would assume that there is a timeline that's involved in that. I'm not sure exactly what that is, but it would seem reasonable to me to keep the same tax rate that we've had this past year at the 0.176. And, you know, that way as an individual taxpayer, they're not paying, or we are not paying any more than we were the previous year. Secondly, I would think that we would want to increase based on the fact that salaries, I mean, I would think that we would not want to decrease it based on the fact that there are going to be additional costs above this year's. I mean, I'm assuming salaries are going to be increasing, retirement and benefits, repairs to equipments, any new equipment, future projects that we want to undertake. All of those, I think, would behoove us to at least keep the same tax rate that we've got right now. And that's my 2 cents worth. I would like to hear some comments from some of the others, and then clarification on perhaps timeframes involved. So
I agree with Mr. Simpson that as an individual, if my tax rate is the same as it was last year, then it's going to be the same. And again, as for city operating, if you've checked out the price of lumber and materials, it's doubled in price since March. So the cost of doing business is extremely high for the upcoming fiscal year and the remainder of this fiscal year in certain areas. So if we don't keep the same taxing rate that we had previous year, we won't be able to balance out the increase in cost, as Mr. Simpson said. So I agree with keeping any rates that we may have had the previous tax period.
I agree as well. I know our assessments have went up, so we're getting more money, but I would like to keep it the same. So I guess Savannah and I talked about the timelines. We just couldn't make it. But I guess going forward, I don't want to be put in this predicament next year if we get more assessments and then they tell us to go down even more. I want to make sure that we maintain at some point and not decrease, because if we ever do increase, our people don't like to increase. So I guess the timeline is like Tom said, would be my thoughts on that. Is there no way that we can get it in?
I agree with Kim and hold it to what we have and not go backwards, because we've got a lot of pressing things that are going to have to be addressed, but the costs are going up. And I know that we have people who are not paying because of COVID for like their water bills and things like that. So we are working at, we should at least be working with what we had last year.
I think there's a technical issue with timelines though, and that's what James probably will tell us about.
So, by the way, not to interject here, you guys can continue your discussion on that. What I was going to interject as far as the timeline goes, and just to give you a little bit of framework about the statutory requirements for adopting. Now, obviously, 0.176 was the tax rate as adopted last year by the council, but obviously your revenues are going to change based upon the assessed values of your property in your city. So as a result of that, the tax rates obviously change in accordance with the statute, and 0.176 for this year happens to be the 4% rate. So by statute, if the city wishes to adopt the tax rate that's going to produce this 4% rate, essentially, we would have a public notice and hearing requirement. The public notice that we have to put out basically provides that we have to advertise at least 2 consecutive weeks in the newspaper of the largest circulation in the county, an advertisement which talks about the tax rate levied in the last year, the tax rate proposed for the current year, and the revenues expected, et cetera, et cetera. So we have to run that for 2 continuous weeks. Looking at the timetable, you would be looking at running an ad on the 20, as I understand it, the Herald Ledger runs on Wednesdays. So you'd be looking at putting an ad in on the 23rd and the 30th. And then you have to have a hearing, a public hearing, between 7 and 10 days after that last ad runs. So you're looking at somewhere between October 7th and the 10th, really, is what you're looking at. So once you've had that public hearing, then I think you can adopt your higher tax rate. And that presents another couple of logistical issues. One would be, when do we have to have our tax rate set? So we are I would say fairly unique. We're unique in that our sheriff does not collect city taxes for us. There are some municipalities where the sheriff actually collects city taxes on behalf of the municipality. If that is the case, you have to have your tax rate in 45 days. There's basically a deadline. I'll just put it that way. We won't get into the technicality of it, but we do not have the sheriff to collect our taxes for us. So we don't have this 45-day deadline that some cities have. So that's kind of what you're dealing with in terms of timetable. Basically the 2 notices and a public hearing between 7 to 10 days after the last notice. And then, you've established your rate. There may also be a couple of practical issues as far as printing the tax bills, getting them distributed, that kind of thing. And I don't know as far as the logistics of that. Savannah may be able to tell you more about the logistics of the printing and that sort of thing. One other thing I'll add, we got our calculations from PAD this year a little bit later than we had in the past. We're not unique in that because PVAs, I think because of the pandemic, PVAs got their information out to the PADs later and the cities later. And then the PAD offices, I think in turn, took them a little longer to calculate. So we had this information last year back in July, whereas this year we didn't have it until August, after our August meeting. So it's a little bit late getting it back. But to answer your question, is it impossible to set a higher tax rate or to set it at this 4% rate? It's not impossible. We would just have to time everything out pretty quickly, honestly. We'd have to get everything timed out just right.
Jay, I have a question.
Yes,
If
ma'am.
we go with this and doing the 4%, could we do a first reading today and then do our notices? Or are we going to do our notices, have the public hearing, and then have to do 2 readings on 2 different times at 2 different times? It's possible, and we can do it.
And go ahead. I'm sorry. Tom.
Let me ask too, and Savannah probably would be the one to answer this. Is it too late to get it in for the 16th for this Wednesday newspaper? I don't know what their deadline is.
I think they moved their deadline for Fridays.
Oh, okay. Okay.
When does our tax bill go out? What's the date that our tax bill mails?
I try to get everyone having their tax bill the first week of October. I got people that will call me next week wanting to pay it. So, but I usually try to shoot for the October 1st, around that first little weekend. We have that 2% that they can only get until the end of October. And then after the 31st, they do the face value and they get penalized after that one. So we will have a short turnaround for people that want to get that penalty or get that, the discount.
What if I mean, I don't know how this works, so you'll have to teach me. But can we not push it back and where they get a discount until the second week of November if we don't take the bills out till November 1 instead of October 1?
Yeah, I think that would be possible.
Well,
I think
he beat me to it, but I was gonna say, would a 2-week delay help any? Like October 15th to be sent out the first time.
I guess that depends on getting it
Yes.
made. What's the turnaround time, Savannah, on cards, the numbers being put on the cards and getting to you before you ship out? Do they ship them out directly or do you ship them out?
I fill out the stuff to put on the card. I send it to them. They ship me the cards and then I send them out to people.
So is that
So
like
it's possible if
what's the turnaround time, I guess, for that, for you getting the information and them getting the cards back to you?
I'd say 2 weeks.
So we're looking at November 1.
You know, one of the other concerns that I have is, we'd lowered, I think I'm correct, we lowered the taxes this current tax year. And so our compensating rates and tax rates for this year are correspondingly lower as well. And or our revenue, I guess I should say, because the tax rate is going to fluctuate depending upon the property values, I guess. But I'm just concerned about what precedent we're setting if we go lower than what our previous tax rate was for this year. And then this coming year, we're saying we're going to go lower than what it is for the following year. And that revenue generated is by statute, I guess, going to be our compensating rate for the next year. Aren't we just continuing, if we don't maintain our current rate, aren't we just continuing to decrease our revenue and tax rates, or am I misunderstanding that?
I feel like our assessments are going to keep going up because our homes are moving and right now it's top value. So I feel like the assessments are going to go down, but that rate's still going to go. Our assessments are going up, but our rate's going to go down. And so we're going to just stay the same. I don't see us losing money, but I don't see us ever gaining any money.
Right. You won't even be able to maintain at some point because you can't replace. So,
Right. Well, that's my concerns by not going with the current tax rate that we have now.
Did we go down last year, or did we maintain from the previous year as well?
We went down. Last year, they suggested that we went with 0.191. And so we went with the rate that was given us in either 18 or 19. So we dropped and lowered the bar a lot last year. So then I posed this to you guys. If we go with the 4%, do we go a little more? Since we
Now,
went backwards
Go
last
through
year.
practice.
I will add one additional item here on the 4%. If you go higher than 4%, not only do you have that 2 public notice and hearing requirement, but it's also subject to a petition for recall. So, you know, that's just food for thought. I have no idea if that's going to have any bearing on your decision or not, but that's just another legality to throw in there as well.
I would like to just maintain, if we can just maintain where we're at this year, or we set last year and do it again for this year, I think that's our best bet. If we can if we can get it within the deadlines and our bills not be pushed out to after November. I think even if we get it out before, like November 1, I think we're sitting good. I'd hate to push it out further and just do a 2-week. If you pay within these 2 weeks of 1st November, then you get your discount.
If it's the council's choice, can we have a first reading tonight with the tax rate of current tax rate 1.7 or 0.176?
I think you can. And then the other thing I was going to add is in terms of pushing that deadline back, I think there used to be a statutory scheme in KRS Chapter 92 that set forth this rigorous framework for when you had to adopt it and it had to go into effect. I think that has been somewhat abolished. And the fact that statute I was reading earlier talking about, you know, when you had to have your rate set. So I think you could have a first reading tonight as long as you had two public notices and a public hearing before adoption. I think that would be in compliance with Kentucky law. If you wanted to do that first reading tonight, let me see here. If you want to do that first reading would your proposal be, Tom, to change that 0.170 to 0.176 on the real property?
Yes, sir.
And then as far as personal property, because that's in there too,
Yes.
would you also want to go with that corresponding rate of 0.2939?
Yes, if that was
Okay.
yes, I would.
Okay. 0.2939.
If it's a pleasure of the council.
Do we need another vote, Jay, to have the first reading on the new ordinance?
Yeah, I think someone could make a motion to have a first reading of the ordinance with the rates at 0.176 for real property and 0.2939 for personal property.
So moved.
Okay. Motion made. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Motion made and seconded. Savannah, can you do a roll call?
And what's your vote?
Aye.
Skyla,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Sandy.
Aye.
Okay. Jay, can you do the
Yes, ma'am.
reading of the new ordinance?
Yes, ma'am. City of Kuttawa, Kentucky, ordinance number 09-14-20-09. Ordinance repealing ordinance number 08-12-19-05 and enacting property tax rates for the 2020 tax year. Whereas the Pennyroyal Area Development District has furnished for the City of Kuttawa, Kentucky, a compensating rate on real estate of 0.163 for the upcoming 2020 tax year. And whereas the compensating rate on real property is the tax rate, if adopted, that will generate as much revenue as the City of Kuttawa received during the previous year. And whereas the Pennyroyal Area Development District has also furnished the substitute rate for real estate of 0.170 for the City of Kuttawa. And whereas the Pennyroyal Area Development District has furnished for the City of Kuttawa, Kentucky, a compensating rate on personal property of 0.2722 for the upcoming 2020 tax year. And whereas the compensating rate on personal property is the tax rate, if adopted, that will generate as much revenue as the City of Kuttawa received during the previous year. And whereas the Pennyroyal Area Development District has also furnished the substitute rate for personal property of 0.2839 for the City of Kuttawa. And whereas the city deems it necessary and in the public's interest to adopt the tax rate of 0.176 for real estate and the tax rate of 0.2939 for personal property. Now, therefore, be it ordained and established that pursuant to and in accordance with KRS Chapter 132, the tax rate of 0.176 for real estate and the tax rate of 0.2939 for personal property are hereby established and adopted for the upcoming 2020 tax year. First reading, September 14th, 2020. Second reading, consideration, passage, publication, attest Savannah McLeod, City Clerk, City of Kuttawa, Kentucky. Barbara Campbell, Mayor, City of Kuttawa, Kentucky.
Okay. So we don't need to vote anymore on that, right? On that issue?
I mean, I don't know that you can't, I don't know that you do, but I would add, you know, obviously this may change the scope of, the scope, it may change the agenda for the proposed special meeting for Thursday. Because obviously we can't, you know, adopt this ordinance effective, in my opinion. I don't think we can adopt this ordinance establishing that rate without the notices in the public hearing. So it may just take this off the agenda for Thursday. You had some other items on the agenda for Thursday. So it may just take this off, but in the meantime, I think what we'll need to do is get to work on getting the ads out so we can get this train moving. So, but no, I don't think you necessarily need
Another vote on this?
I think this, you know, we've had a first reading. And so now I think it goes to the public notice and hearing provisions of KRS Chapter 132. And then we can, I think we have to revisit it after that.
Will
Okay.
this, just for a second, will this change the reading numbers then? Before it was 0914 009, will that still stay the same?
I mean, as far as our numbering goes, I think so, because ordinarily, Savannah, don't you number them in accordance with introduction and how they're introduced? And that they kind of numbered like September 14th, 2020, ordinance 9, basically. That's when it was introduced, right?
So we'll keep the same number, and whenever we go to do our second reading after all the hoops, so it'll still be 9.
Okay.
They'll just pass at a later time.
Okay.
Okay. Are we ready to move on? Okay, the next item on new business is the first reading of the City of Kuttawa ordinance number 09-14-20-10, which is the ordinance establishing procedure for grant applications for the City of Kuttawa. Is there a motion to hear the first reading of this ordinance?
Make a motion, first reading of grant proposal.
Oh,
Second.
motion made and seconded. We need a roll call vote. Savannah, please.
Kim,
Aye.
Skyla,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Okay. Jay, could you read the ordinance, please?
Yes, ma'am. City of Kuttawa, Kentucky, ordinance number 09-14-20-10. An ordinance establishing policies and procedures for the consideration and approval of grant applications submitted to the City of Kuttawa. Whereas the City of Kuttawa desires to establish policies and procedures for the consideration and approval of grant applications submitted to the City of Kuttawa, and whereas in an effort to accomplish this objective, the City of Kuttawa desires to adopt an ordinance establishing the policies and procedures for the consideration and approval of grant applications submitted to the City of Kuttawa, and whereas upon the adoption of this ordinance, the policies and procedures for the consideration and approval of grant applications submitted to the City of Kuttawa will be implemented in Chapter 33 of Kuttawa City Ordinances. Now therefore be it ordained and established by the City of Kuttawa as follows. The City of Kuttawa hereby accepts the recommendation of the Kuttawa City Council to adopt policies and procedures for the consideration and approval of grant applications submitted to the city of Kuttawa and Chapter 33 of the Kuttawa City Ordinances, which are collectively attached hereto as Exhibit A, and which are incorporated fully herein by reference. These new policies and procedures for the consideration and approval of grant applications submitted to the city of Kuttawa will repeal and replace any prior policies and procedures for the consideration and approval of grant applications approved by the city of Kuttawa. First reading, second reading, consideration, passage, publication. Barbara Campbell, Mayor, City of Kuttawa, Kentucky. Attest, Savannah McLeod, City Clerk, City of Kuttawa, Kentucky.
Okay. Any discussion?
And what I was going to do, Mayor,
Yes.
I can go ahead and read these. It's pretty short. I think I can whip through this in a hurry just to make sure we have a full reading in the record. So City of Kuttawa, Kentucky ordinance number 09-14-20-10, Exhibit A, grant application and approval. Section A, no funding request from any organization or entity may be considered unless and until a full, accurate, and complete grant funding application is filed with the City of Kuttawa. Section B, no funding request will be considered from any for-profit organization or entity unless otherwise permissible under state law. Likewise, no funding request will be considered if the City of Kuttawa is prohibited by state law from sending money for the requested good or service. Section C, once a full and complete application from a nonprofit group or organization for a legal expenditure of city funds is received by the City of Kuttawa, the members of the Kuttawa City Council will be given a full copy of the application prior to the next regularly scheduled Kuttawa City Council meeting. Determination, Section A, the Kuttawa City Council may only approve a grant application which first meets the following test of public purpose. Number one, the expenditure must confer a direct benefit of a reasonably general character to a significant part of the city public as distinguished from a remote or theoretical benefit. Section two, the receiving organization must provide services that are for the general good and welfare of city citizens. And three, the grant must have as its objective the promotion of the public health, safety, morals, general welfare, security, prosperity, and contentment of all, or at least a substantial part of city inhabitants or residents. Section B, the Kuttawa City Council must further make a determination that there are adequate safeguards in place to make sure that the receiving organization uses the grant request for the particular public purpose found by the City of Kuttawa. Where possible, the City of Kuttawa should be provided invoices for application of the grant funds directly to the vendor of the material, equipment, goods, or services which are being provided to the public. Section C, the Kuttawa City Council may only approve a grant application through the adoption of a municipal order at a regular monthly meeting of the Kuttawa City Council. Prohibited grants. Section A, the City of Kuttawa does hereby find the following types of grant requests are not sufficiently related to the public purpose and therefore prohibited. One, any grant request which could be construed as a payment of a personal bill for a city resident as opposed to the support of a community-wide program or initiative. Section two, any grant request which could be construed as support of a particular business or industry. And section three, any grant request which funds any facility that is not open to the general public. Penalty. A, any person violating any provision of this chapter for which there's no specific penalty is prescribed shall be subject to section 10.99 of the Code of Ordinances. Section B, any person who violates any provision of section 3304 shall be fined not less than $50 nor more than $500. In addition, any officer who fails to comply with any of the provisions of section 3304 shall, for each failure, be subject to a forfeiture of not less than $50 nor more than $500 in the discretion of the court, which may be recovered only once in a civil action brought by any resident of the city.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Okay, so we don't vote on this, wait till the next reading, right? Second reading.
That'd be fine, Madam Mayor.
All right. On the agenda for the next item is the City of Kuttawa Resolution number 10. Resolution authorizing grant application to the Kentucky Department of Local Government for the Coronavirus Relief Fund. Jay, could you read the resolution, please?
Yes. City of Kuttawa, Kentucky, Resolution Number 10. A resolution of the City of Kuttawa, City authorizing the filing of a coronavirus relief fund application for reimbursement of incurred expenses in CRF funds with the Kentucky Department for Local Government. Authorizing and directing the mayor of the City of Kuttawa to execute any documents which are deemed necessary by DLG to reimburse city, and authorizing the mayor of the City of Kuttawa to act as the authorized correspondent for reimbursement. Whereas city desires reimbursement for expenses incurred due to the public health emergency with respect to the coronavirus disease 2019, COVID-19, on behalf of the residents of the city. And whereas it is recognized that CRF funds are available to the city pursuant to the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, CARES Act, and impose certain obligations and responsibilities upon the city that require, among other things, 1, approval of a satisfactory application by the city transmitted to DLG for approval, and 2, other obligations of the city in connection with receiving the CRF funds for the purposes stated herein. Now therefore be it resolved by the Kuttawa City Council and the City of Kuttawa that the mayor and or her appointees / successors in title are hereby authorized to execute and submit a CRF application on behalf of the city to the DLG for CRF funds for reimbursement of expenses incurred by the city due to the public health emergency with respect to COVID-19, that the mayor of the City of Kuttawa and or her appointees / successors in title shall provide such additional information and furnish such documentation as may be required or necessary to complete said application process, and that the mayor of the City of Kuttawa shall act as the authorized correspondent for reimbursement. Adopted this blank day of September 2020, Barbara Campbell, Mayor, attest, Savannah McLeod, City Clerk.
Okay, thank you, Jay. Is there any discussion? If not, is there a motion to approve the resolution?
I make a motion to approve the resolution number 10 for COVID-19 relief fund.
A second.
Okay, motion made and seconded, and we need a roll call vote. Savannah?
Kim,
Aye.
Carla,
Aye.
Mom,
Aye.
Sandy.
Aye.
Okay. Carries, the vote carries, so the resolution number 10 for the grant application for coronavirus relief fund has been adopted. Okay, next on the agenda, I just have a few things to add in for my mayor's report. Concerning the need for a four-way stop at the intersection of East Clo and Walnut Drive. We had inspection by the engineers of the Transportation Cabinet for their opinion. The report reflected that they did not recommend an additional stop sign at the East Clo Street in Walnut. They indicated having stop signs on both sides of that Walnut Street and stop signs at the bottom of East Clo should be enough to keep traffic to a reasonable speed. Also, it could create issues for larger trucks with heavy loads that are required to stop at the crest of the hill due to the steep slope of the East Clo Street. And they reported that the existing signage appears to be the appropriate for the current conditions. And I have a copy of that. If anyone wants me to mail that to them, I'd be glad to. We are also, Savannah and I talked this afternoon about the movies in the park. I know we've been off and on with this 2 or 3 different times, and we've decided to go ahead and cancel that again due to the increase in some of the local cases in our area. It was scheduled for Saturday, September the 26th for the Lorax movie. So we are going to try and reschedule that for next spring. Hopefully things will get back in better shape, we're hoping. So we will set a date for that. in the near future. And Savannah has got set up a website for the city of Kuttawa. We have been planning, as we've mentioned it a time or two before, the Christmas in Kuttawa event on December the 5th and 6th. On the website, there's a lot of good information about this event there. Also has a application for vendors, if anybody would like to apply on there or call and get an application. Have several things going on, hosting a golf cart parade, and different things on Saturday as well as on Sunday too, in the around the amphitheater on December the 6th. Okay. Now, there is some construction that will be ongoing probably in the next week or so. Harper Construction is doing some work with the curb there in front of Hubie's restaurant in Kuttawa. And they will also be putting crosswalks on both sides of where the little bridge is there. So just kind of heads up on that. They're going to be closing one of the streets there where they can store their equipment overnight and not have to park it in the grass. So it would just be temporary. And also going to be doing the same thing pretty much down around on 295 on First Street as well. So, and that will be after this project is done. So that is all that I have. Do the council members have anything to add or anything to report?
I had a question. I noticed a building that kind of appeared next to the cabin. Is that up to the restrictions, the Lyon County or the Kuttawa City's restrictions up to code on that?
No, it is not. They
Okay.
been sent, Savannah can probably fill you in more on that. We've sent them a letter. Didn't you prepare that, Jay? You,
Actually, I think Frank actually.
okay, Frank Wallace,
Yeah.
building inspector. And they have been told that they are not in compliance, that they need to do other things. So we'll see how that goes.
Is there a deadline for that?
I don't know. You know what the letter said, Savannah? What?
Until I can
probably
jump
pull
there.
up a copy of it, maybe, so I can find this.
Planning and zoning also was involved, and as well as engineer in the letter.
Hey.
There she is.
Brent can fill it out too. He's dealt with
Okay.
them.
Can y'all hear me? I apologize.
Yes.
I had been asked to keep an eye on that location because he was continuing to, Mr. Hatfield was continuing to erect some items on that lot after he had already been given verbal notice by the building official. And so I put a note on the property there asking him to contact me, and he did. Mr. Hatfield did contact me, and he said that he was not in receipt of the letter that the building official had sent to him and had copied City Hall on. And so I made arrangements through Savannah and the building official to get him that copy. And it's my understanding he has got that copy. He has been directed to cease and desist until such time as he gets in compliance with the regulations and the law and with the building official. And I have not heard any further. So it does appear that he has stopped, but he has not removed anything from the property, but he has done what he's been told to do, which is ceased and desist. So you might have to talk to the building official to get further.
Okay. Thank you, Brent. Council members, anyone else have anything?
just want to thank the city workers for the job that they're doing. I know it's difficult right now with all of the things that have happened as far as people getting hurt and that sort of thing. I know that they've been stretched this whole summer. So just want to tell them we appreciate what they're doing. And want to extend my condolences. I know he's not here tonight, but to Sean with the death of his mama.
Anyone else?
Did we have, can we do council member reports on this
That's
meeting?
what, yes, that's what I had just asked for. I'm sorry.
I don't know what the plans are for the walking trail, but if we were going to put like 2 benches at each square point, it's really needed.
Yes.
I don't mean fancy ones with the back. There's a certain kind that's just a flat bench with a coating that will withstand, being outside for 10, 15 years and just bolt it to the concrete. I don't know what you have in plan, but I did look at it yesterday and I didn't know if we were going to do that or not.
I tell you also, along those lines, I think if funding permits, I don't see anything wrong with putting a picnic table there. And it could be the same type as what you're talking about, the coating, or just the simple wooden one. But there's space to pull off there. And I do see people's cars that are pulled off there and they're down there. I think that would be picnic table and trash can would be.
Trash can, big time.
Yeah. I think that would be nice. I think it would be a nice area just to come park, sit, eat lunch, and overlook that lake area.
Now, if we were intending people to park on the curb, that little, about 2 cars, if we're intending them to park there like they are now and coming down, are there any plans to put a safe egress of stairs or steps there? Because that's highway, so I don't know. But that's just something for further discussion. And another thing is the new lift station. Is there plans to put any type of gate or barrier? If not, I'd like to suggest the roll type gate, like a tube partition on wheels that just rolls down the guardrail area or whatever to keep people from walking into there. And I hate to suggest the railings around the edges like the walking trail has, but something to keep people out or keep them from going down the riprap.
I think Mark has indicated, Skyla, that they do plan to enclose that entire area with the fence.
Okay. And we're having crosswalks installed in front of 5th and 1st?
Yes. Yes. I think that's the plan.
And for further plans, I'd like to sometime revisit petitioning to drop the speed limit to 25 through there. I had brought it up like how long I've been, 18 years ago, and they wouldn't do it, and probably brought it up 10 years ago. But now with the increased traffic and stuff, I think it's reasonable to consider that unless there's already been a study not recommending 25.
We can check into that. I'm not sure.
That's
Okay.
all.
Mr. Fowler,
Yes, Brent?
when we petitioned the transportation cabinet about it from 35
Brent, you're cutting out for me.
sorry. What about now?
Oh,
Okay.
that's good.
Good.
That's good.
When we petitioned the transportation from Stubbs to the Springs, that
I can't Saying a word
over to 35. But I can check with them if you would like for me to.
Um,
Are you talking
Yeah,
about just
I
in
was
front
looking
of
at the
Hubie's?
nursing home. I was looking at the nursing home to First Street. A decrease from the
Nursing,
from the nursing
where
home
you
to
come across?
where they pop the hill,
Yes, ma'am.
nursing home. I forget what street that is on the nursing home side, or you can do the one at the bottom of the hill. Bottom of the hill to First Street would be ideal. The rest of it can stay the same.
I can check with them. If you all would like me to do that, I can certainly do that.
If you would, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, if nothing further, is there a motion that we adjourn?
Make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Need a roll call vote on that, Savannah?
And so does Susie.
Aye.
You may. Let's try.
Aye.
Skylar?
Aye.
Oh, we got it.
Okay. Get them all?
Scarlett, how did your cat vote, Scarlett?
That would be Miss.
Oh,
Lucy.
that's your dog. I thought it was a cat. Oh, there's 2 dogs. Oh my
There's
goodness.
2 of them.
They keep talking to me and I keep shoving them away.
Aw.
Okay, then motion carries. The meeting is now adjourned.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Bye,
you.
y'all.
Bye.
Hi, guys.
Bye.